My name is Claire Whitman. I'm 27 years old, and until this morning, I still believed I had a place in my family. We'd been planning this trip for months, a big weekend getaway to celebrate my dad's birthday. I had taken time off work, bought everyone matching t-shirts, even baked cookies for the road. It felt like a rare chance for us to be together without the usual chaos. When I pulled up to the meeting spot, the old gas station just off Route 16, my heart was actually pounding with excitement. I parked, grabbed my overnight bag, and waited for the familiar sight of my parents' SUV or my brother's rusty truck. But minutes turned into an hour. I texted my mom. No reply. I called my brother, Ethan. Straight to voicemail. I refreshed the group chat we'd been using to plan everything. No updates. The pit in my stomach grew heavier with each passing minute. At first, I thought maybe they were just running late. But when I checked the location sharing we'd set up, my screen froze. They weren't just late. They were already 3 hours away without me. I stood there, feeling small against the empty parking lot, like the air had been knocked out of me. Was this an accident? Did they forget me? Or did they just not want me there? For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I had my answer, and that this moment was going to change everything. I wish I could say this was the first time I'd been left behind. But it wasn't. Growing up in the Whitman house meant living in the shadow of my brother, Ethan. He was the golden child, the athlete, the honor roll student, the one my mom bragged about to the neighbors. I was, well, the quiet one. At least, that's what my dad used to say, as if being quiet meant I wasn't really there. When I was 8, my parents forgot to pick me up from a school play. I stood outside the auditorium with my little paper crown still on my head, watching the parking lot empty out. My drama teacher finally drove me home, and when I walked in, everyone was sitting around the dinner table laughing about Ethan's baseball game. Mom just said, "Oh, we lost track of time." Mom, Linda, has always had this sharp edge to her, every compliment laced with criticism. If I got a B+, she'd ask why it wasn't an A. If I gained a little weight, she'd leave diet magazines on my bed. Dad, Michael, wasn't mean, just absent. He buried himself in work and left Mom to run the house, which meant she ran me like I was her second project, one she never quite finished. Even holidays were uneven. Ethan got the newest bike, the latest phone, the big graduation party. I got whatever was left over. But despite all that, I kept trying. I kept hoping that one day they'd look at me and see me, not just the spare kid, not just the one they could forget about. So when they invited me on this family trip, I thought maybe things were changing. Maybe this was my chance to belong again. And now, standing there in that empty parking lot, I realized maybe I'd been wrong my entire life. When Mom texted about planning a trip for Dad's 60th birthday, I jumped at the chance. Finally, I thought, something we can all do together. I rearranged my work schedule at the bookstore, begged my boss for those 3 days off, even though it meant losing out on extra hours I desperately needed to pay rent. I spent nights scrolling through Pinterest for road trip snack ideas. I ordered matching shirts online with Whitman Family Trip 2025 printed across the front. It felt cheesy, but I thought it would make Dad smile. I even offered to drive Ethan's kids, Maddie and Jack, since he and his wife always said long trips were stressful with them. But as the departure date got closer, I started noticing things. Mom would send updates in the group chat, except she'd leave me out of certain messages. I'd find out about a hotel change because Ethan would casually mention it in passing. When I asked if I should bring anything for the trip, Mom's response was a cold, "Just show up on time." I tried to brush it off. I told myself I was being sensitive, reading too much into it. Still, I went the extra mile. I baked Dad's favorite chocolate chip cookies, packed extra chargers for everyone, and made a playlist with everyone's favorite songs, even Ethan's weird country tracks I can't stand. By the night before the trip, I was exhausted but happy. I stayed up late ironing the shirts, neatly folding them into a tote bag labeled family trip. I guess a part of me believed that if I did everything right, if I worked hard enough, if I was thoughtful enough, maybe they'd finally see me as part of the family, not just an afterthought. So, when I woke up early that morning, got dressed, and drove out to the meeting spot with my heart practically bursting out of my chest, I was ready. I was ready to belong. And that's what made standing in that empty parking lot feel like such a punch to the gut. I must have stood there for almost an hour before it finally hit me. This wasn't a mistake. I opened our family group chat again, scrolling back through the messages. And there it was. A photo. Posted by Ethan's wife, Brittany. All of them, Mom, Dad, Ethan, the kids, smiling in front of a diner 3 hours away. The caption read, "Breakfast before we hit the road." I stared at that picture until my hands started to shake. It wasn't that they had left early. It wasn't even that they hadn't texted me. It was that not a single one of them had thought about me long enough to notice I wasn't there. My phone buzzed just then, a single message from Mom. "Mom, you didn't say anything in the chat last night, so we assumed you weren't coming. It's too late to turn around now." Too late to turn around. Like I was just luggage they'd forgotten, not a daughter they'd abandoned. I typed out a dozen replies, angry ones, sad ones, desperate ones, but deleted them all. What was the point? I put my phone down, climbed back into my car, and just sat there. The playlist I'd made started playing automatically. The first song was Dad's favorite. I reached over and shut it off so hard the screen cracked. And then I just drove. Not home. Not anywhere specific. Just away. Away from that parking lot. Away from the empty ache in my chest. Away from the hope that maybe, just maybe, this trip would have been different. By the time I stopped for gas an hour later, I knew it wasn't just the trip I was done with. I was done with them. I didn't go home that day. Instead, I checked into a cheap roadside motel, crawled under the stiff blanket, and cried until my throat was raw. It wasn't just about the trip. It was every forgotten pickup, every half-hearted birthday card, every time Mom made me feel like I wasn't enough. It all came crashing down at once. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up with my notebook, writing down everything I'd ever wanted to say to them, but never could. By morning, my hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. I couldn't keep begging to be seen. I couldn't keep waiting for a seat at their table. I had to leave, not just this town, not just this weekend, but this entire pattern of my life. The next few weeks were a blur of quiet, determined action. I listed my apartment for sublease. I sold half my furniture on Facebook Marketplace. I quit my job at the bookstore, despite my boss's protests. When Mom called, once, I let it go to voicemail. I bought a one-way bus ticket to Asheville, North Carolina, a place I'd never been but had always wanted to see. Starting over was terrifying. My first apartment there was barely bigger than a closet, one room, creaky floors, and a window that stuck every time I tried to open it. But it was mine. I got a job at a little cafe downtown, pulling espresso shots and learning how to make latte art. The pay was terrible, but my coworkers, Hannah and Luis, made me laugh for the first time in months. I started hiking on weekends, filling my phone with photos of mountains and sunsets instead of screenshots of family chats. Slowly, piece by piece, I built a life that felt like mine. And one night, as I sat on my tiny balcony with a cup of tea, I realized I hadn't thought about that empty parking lot all day. For the first time, that memory didn't make me cry. It made me proud. Because leaving them behind was the bravest thing I'd ever done. About 6 months after I moved, my phone lit up with a familiar name, Mom. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then came a text. "Mom, your dad isn't feeling well. We'd like you to come home for a few days." "No, how are you?" No apology. Just an order disguised as concern. I didn't answer. The next day, Ethan texted. "Ethan, look, Mom's worried. Dad's fine, but she says the family feels incomplete without you. Can we just move past this?" Move past this. Like I was the problem. A week later, I saw a Facebook post from Mom with a picture of Dad in a hospital gown, except my cousin messaged me saying it was taken before a routine checkup last year. They were trying to guilt me back. The old me would have driven home in a panic, desperate to fix things. But the woman sitting on her Asheville balcony that night just sipped her tea and blocked the number. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. A real one, handwritten by Mom. It started with, "I don't understand why you're being so dramatic." I stopped reading after that, because I finally understood. They didn't want me back, because they missed me. They wanted me back because my absence made them uncomfortable. And I wasn't going to shrink myself just to make them comfortable again. I folded the letter, set it on the counter, and lit a candle. Watching it burn felt like closing the last open door to that old life. And for the first time, the silence that followed felt peaceful. It's been a year since that morning in the parking lot. I still have days when the memories sneak up on me, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays where I wonder what my family is doing without me. But then I look around my tiny apartment, the plants thriving on my windowsill, the fridge covered with photos of me and my new friends, and I remember, this is what freedom feels like. I used to think leaving was selfish, that cutting ties meant I was giving up on my family. But now I know the truth. I didn't give up on them. I chose myself. I chose to stop begging for love that should have been freely given. I chose to stop shrinking just to fit in their picture-perfect version of a family. I chose to build a life where I am wanted by myself, first and foremost. And you know what? It feels good. When I tell people my story now, they sometimes ask if I'll ever go back. Maybe one day. Maybe not. But for the first time, it doesn't matter. Because I'm not living my life waiting for someone to choose me. I already did that. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt left out, forgotten, or invisible, hear me when I say this. Sometimes being left behind isn't a curse. It's the push you need to find your own road. Family isn't just blood. Family is the people who show up for you, who see you, who choose you every single day. And if they can't do that, it's okay to walk away. Because choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. And sometimes, survival is the most beautiful thing you can do.